Okay, you're good to go, Mr. Deputy.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Good evening, members of the public, staff, and council. Welcome to the Monday, July 19th, 2020 meeting. Can I call the meeting to order? Okay, moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that the July 19th council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry be opened at 7:01 p.m. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. I'll now ask everyone to rise for the singing of our national anthem. All right, thank you very much. Before we go on to approval of the agenda, I have a couple announcements I'd like to read. Tonight we're celebrating the upcoming retirement of Richard Lapierre. Council would like to acknowledge the upcoming retirement of Richard Lapierre after 21 years of dedicated service with the Township. Richard joined the Township of South Glengarry in December of 1999 when he was hired for the position of Recreation Facility Operator 3. Prior to his employment with South Glengarry, Richard worked as a plow operator with the village of Lancaster and as an auto mechanic for over 20 years. His career with the Township was one that continuously progressed as a recreation facility operator, and he later assumed the role of Recreation and Facility Supervisor in 2019. In addition to his service to the Township, Richard has volunteered over the years within the community of South Glengarry as a volunteer firefighter with the village of Lancaster, as well as volunteering for sports and recreation activities such as coaching women and children's baseball and volunteering at Charland minor hockey tournaments. Congratulations, Richard. We wish you well in your retirement and thank you for your years of service. And on a personal note, I hope you and Betty Ann are able to do some traveling. So congratulations and thank you very much. And I'd like to welcome our new director, Sherry Lynn Servidge. We'd like to, Sherry Lynn, there you are. Sherry Lynn Servidge, who assumed her role as Director of Parks and Recreation and Culture today. We're putting you right to work right away. Sherry Lynn joins the Township with 6 years of municipal experience in parks and recreation. Her extensive knowledge of recreation, programming, community engagement, grant writing, and recreation operations will certainly be a great asset to the Township. We look forward to working with you, Sherry Lynn, and welcome to the team.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to getting started.
Wonderful. Thanks very much for being here tonight. Alrighty, moving on to item number 3, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments?
Yes, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. We have a couple of additions to the closed session portion of our meeting, with one item being added under the potential litigation heading, as well as one underneath the identifiable individual heading. Additionally, we have 2 items that have been requested to be moved from information only into other business for discussion. Those being item 7DC, the infrastructure monthly report, as well as item 7DG being the 2021 building permit statistics.
Okay. Moved by Sam Actonel, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that the agenda for the July 19th, 2021 regular council meeting be adopted as amended. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? I have to declare on the in-camera portion for the Beaupre Road study report. My parents own property on that stretch of road, and I will not be participating in that discussion. I will ask Councillor Jaworski to cover for me during that portion. Thank you very much. Approval of the minutes. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Markin Lane. Be it resolved that the minutes of the July 5th regular council meeting, including the closed session minutes, be adopted as circulated. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam Actonel. Be it resolved that the minutes of the July 5th public meeting be adopted as circulated. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 5A. We did that. Thank you. Presentations and delegations. 6A. Williamstown Fair Board. Miss Chelsea Hope.
I don't see Chelsea on here yet, Mr. Deputy. Oh, wait, sorry. She's in the attendees.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, there she is. She put her hand up.
Okay. Chelsea, I've unmuted you, so you should be able to take yourself off mute, and you should be able to share video as well if you want to.
Is that good? I can't see that I can do any of that. Can you hear me though?
We can.
Okay, but you can't see me.
No.
Okay, just a second here, you guys. I'm sorry. I can get started though, if that's okay.
Yes.
All right. It's asking me join as a panelist or stay as an attendee.
If you click to become a panelist, Chelsea, you should be able to turn your camera on.
Okay, I'll do that. Try that. All right.
There you go.
Okay, so good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm here tonight on behalf of the St. Lawrence Valley Agricultural Society as a request for support, being support is in funding. I sent out a package this morning through Kelly that has the details and the information of what we're looking for. So this year, as you know, we're going to be another drive-through fair. We're trying to enhance and do a little more than last year. So it'll be free again, as it was in 2020. And without the support of the province or grants through the province and the municipality, we will run a deficit again this year for a second year in a row. Also, you know, it's been a tough go for everybody. We've been working on making plans throughout the year, trying to communicate as much as we can with the health unit and just waiting on the rules to be announced. But, you know, things of sizable nature take quite a lot of planning. So we're going to stick to the plan, do the drive-through, hold our 4-H and our cattle show and our horse show on grounds, which, you know, invitations will be extended to members of exhibitors' families, friends, to come and watch in person, though it will not be open to members of the public. Our main goal for our fair is to, you know, continue with our title of Canada's oldest annual fair, which is, you know, very important to us as it is to the community. So otherwise, you know, it's a tough year. We're looking to come back bigger and better than ever in 2022. You know, we're hoping for community support again this year and participation in putting on a reverse parade, just like last year, scarecrow competition. And then otherwise, the movie night proposal that was sent out is a new event, just trying to get back to normal, and would like to invite members of the community, young families, to come in, have a free movie night with concessions and kind of a relaxed atmosphere. I mean, it allows now in stage 3 for more people to be in attendance, and hopefully we can go forward with that. But looking for, again, support and sponsorship of both of these events. So the request was for $10,000, $6,000 going to the fair itself. These would go to signage, you know, additional cleaning supplies, sanitation, you know, extra lighting, things like that, that would be, you know, be looking to dress up. And for the movie night, I've got here, you guys got to see the paperwork, but it's $4,000. It's open air projections coming from east of Toronto. And there's a couple of costs on that sheet that you guys would have looked at. There's $650 for a water truck, which would not be required because it likely won't be needed. That's for anchoring if required. And then there's a licensing fee of $450, which is only required if you set up and charge at the gate, which is considered to be a box office. So, you know, looking at the movie night, just as with the fair, we see the township as being a great partner. It's an opportunity for all of us to stand together and, you know, just make sure that we're making every opportunity for people just to have a good night out and a good experience. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation, Ms. Hope. So I'd like to ask a question of our treasurer, Mr. Laughlin. Mr. McDonald, pardon me. If council so chooses to support the St. Lawrence Valley Ag with a donation, do we have any funds available to do so without going over a budget?
Yes, we likely do. Just like last year with COVID happening, there are a lot of groups who aren't using those dollars. So there will be some left over. And if not, it will be pretty close to the point where we'd be at or slightly above budget. So there is room there if we wish to go to grants and donations. Okay, thank you very much. So I'll open it to the floor to questions and discussion from other members. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. Ms. Hope, I just want to make a quick comment saying that I admire and congratulations to members of the Fair Board who have continued to work tirelessly on trying to put something together, and now putting something together when the situation was so unclear. It took a lot of perseverance. So I applaud you all in being able to bring this to fruition, and I certainly look forward to supporting this endeavor. Because again, like you said, something where we can bring the community together, and there haven't been many events. So I think it makes a lot of sense for us to support here.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jaworski. Councillor Lang, Councillor McDonnell. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you, thank you, Ms. Hope, for the presentation. If we support to the tune of the $10,000, so $4,000 would go towards the movie night. Is that then one movie night that would be sponsored by the township? Is that the way you see this working?
Yeah. So we would make you guys an exclusive sponsor. I would hope that we could work together. You know, I personally would love to plan for it to be a showcase of the spirit of the township. You know, there's different ways that we can do that, but you know, there's a great spot on screen before the movie starts. I don't know if you would want to have a PowerPoint or a slideshow highlighting different areas of the township, maybe any other upcoming events or reminders, personal messages from you guys. But also just to have you there in person, like it really could be an invitation to those family members that are coming in that, they come in for dinner and buy their snacks and get ready for the movie and have some face-to-face contact with everyone and get to say thank you. Otherwise, there's other ways that you can highlight different things. I would say that this would be a focus for young families. So, keeping in mind that it could be a children's movie that what I'm thinking is, we can put it out on a poll on Facebook, choose a few of the movies that are available, see what people want to watch, and just go from there. Maybe bring in, I don't know if you guys would want to put a fire truck on display, but just things like that, make it fun for the kids. The kids have been so good through all of this. They've been extremely patient, and it would just be really nice to give them a fun memory of, one night out before school starts.
Hey, that's great.
When are you thinking of starting the movie nights?
So the fair's coming up here in a few weeks. And I would say this would likely happen late August, is what I would be hoping. So of course, that means an earlier start to the movie. We wouldn't have to wait until 9:30, 10 o'clock, but early enough that, some of the little ones can still get out and stay up.
All right, thank you.
Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thanks, Ms. Hope, for your presentation. And I guess just to comment, I think it's a great idea, and I'd be happy to support it as well. And just to congratulate you and your entire group on, I guess, all the perseverance you've put into dealing with trying to put something together for the community, even through this hard time the last little while. And no, I think it'd be a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. I echo all the comments of the other members. I've asked the clerk to prepare a motion. I feel with the fair coming up and our next council meeting days before, or I feel it would help you guys knowing where you stand. So I've asked the clerk to prepare a motion to grant the full 10,000. And we'll put it to a vote this evening, and we'll see how that goes. And
that's great. Thank you very much.
So I do, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I do have a resolution prepared. I just have a quick question for Mr. McDonald before I go ahead and read that. Lachlan, what's the name of the account this would be drawn from? Would that be the grants and donations, or?
That would be the one, yes.
From the grants and donations fund, or what would be the appropriate wording?
That's perfect like that. That will give me the guidance I require.
Donations. Okay, perfect. Okay, so then Mr. Deputy Mayor, if you could just call for a mover and a seconder, and then I can read the resolution for you.
Okay, I see Councillor Lang and Councillor McDonnell's. Councillor Lang is the mover, Councillor McDonnell is the seconder. Before we go to a vote, is there any other discussion on the matter? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Are you gonna read it?
Yeah, do you want me to read it first? Moved by Councillor Lang, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approves a donation of $10,000 to the St. Lawrence Agricultural Society, Williamstown Fair, to be drawn from the Grants and Donations Fund.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Ms. Hope, for your presentation. And we look forward to seeing you at the fairgrounds this August.
Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll look forward to having you all.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Appreciate it. You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Now I'll hand the floor over to Acting Director Chief Mr. Robertson to introduce our next presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and good evening to Council and to the members of the public. This evening, I'm pleased to have EVB Engineering and Marco Vincelli to present to you an item on the Midway Fire Pond. The Midway Fire Pond is on Midway Road in Somerstown Station. It is a facility we've had for well over a quarter of a century. It is a fire life safety pump and storage facility that we use to provide water and fire suppression services to 2 commercial locations on that adjacent to that property. So this location, both the pond and also the equipment and the fire pump and additional equipment, it is in it's in the late stages of its expected lifespan. It needs significant work to the building and to the fire pump, also the pond. So in considering how we wanted to move forward with that facility, we felt it prudent to approach council with a study of the site, because it is going to take significant funds to update it, even into the existing condition or status that it is. So we procured the services of EVB. We've reviewed the facility. We've reviewed the status and how it operates, reviewed our expenses over the last 5 years and the income that we receive from it. And that will all be discussed in the presentation tonight. So I welcome Marco Vincelli to present, and we will be fully open for questions after the presentation. So. Hi, Marco, you can proceed at your convenience.
I apologize. Sorry, we've had some technical difficulties at our end, so I had to reconnect. Am I allowed to share my screen?
Yes, please do.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you, Your Worship, Council, and Administration for your time tonight. So EVB Engineering, as Mr. Robertson had indicated, was retained by the Township to take a look at the Midway fire water system that is located just on the north side of the 401 in Somerstown. So it currently provides some fire water protection to 2 of the industries that are in that area. I did find the original well record for that system, and it was dated 1967. So the system itself has been around for quite a while. It has gone through a few updates. The latest update was in 1997 when a lot of the electrical systems were brought up to date to the codes of that day. So currently there is not an agreement with any of the adjacent industries to provide this service, but the Township has been providing the service to the 2 industries for a period of time without that agreement in place, with an oral contract for them to compensate the Township for the operating expenses of that system. So here are a few pictures of the different components of the system. So we have the outside shell of the building, and the water pond would be the storage, which is naturally fed from a spring. The far right picture are some of the electrical panels within the building. The bottom left-hand picture is a fire water pump. So there is a single fire water pump that provides all of the firefighting capabilities from this station. And the other pump on the right-hand side is a pump that is used to prime the fire water pump, because it doesn't have enough suction head to start functioning properly in the configuration that it's in. So our team did go to the site back in May, and we did a condition assessment of all the components. And we have produced a draft report for the Township's review. but some of the highlights within that report indicate that several components of the system are in fair condition, which means they're going to need attention in the next 3 to 5 years. So there is significant overgrowth of vegetation within the firewater pond itself, so it would need to be cleared. One of the items in poor condition would be the fence around the firewater pond. It was not secure enough, and people could get into the firewater pond if they chose to hop over the fence. The building itself was in fair condition. There was some concrete spalling on the foundation of the structure. Some of the walls are in some need of repair. There were signs of animals getting into the building. So those holes will definitely need to be obstructed further to prevent that from happening in the future. The well pump and the jockey pump were recently installed in the last 4 and 10 years, so they were still in good condition. The fire pump itself is getting up there in age. You can tell that some animals had gotten into the pump itself. The insulation around the motor windings had been chewed, and there were insulation on the screens around the pump, so you could see that there has been some damage to the motor from animals getting into the building. And then the electrical systems were all updated in 1997, so they are going to be reaching the end of their design service life in the next 10 to 15 years. So our team decided to evaluate the replacement value of each of the components. So as the building stands currently, the replacement value was estimated at about $336,000. So the annual cost for the operation of the system, sorry, Mr. Robertson, I'm not sure if you'd have that information available if council was interested, but I didn't have it at the time of putting this presentation together. So there is the annual cost that is incurred by the township, and it is paid for by the 2 industries that are connected to the system. But the township has some consideration to give to how this system should operate in the future. So one of the options is to continue to provide the service for these 2 industries, knowing that there is a large capital infrastructure requirement in order to bring them up to today's standards and to replace equipment that have reached the end of the service life. We did take a look at the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association's standards for this structure, and it looked like everything had met the design intent of that standard. In discussions with people in the industry, if there is an agreement that is to be put in place in the future for the payments of that capital infrastructure, those 2 industries may or may not have their insurance companies involved. And should the insurance companies get involved, they may make a requirement to have a redundant fire water pump to be there in case one of the pumps does not start, and the potential of having an emergency standby generator at the site as well, should a fire have to be fought when there's a power outage in the area. So that could potentially add to the capital cost of rehabilitating this building should the township decide to continue to offer this service to these 2 industries. Another option for the township to consider is to transfer the ownership of the facility to one or to both of the industries being serviced. Or the third option is to inform both of the industries that the township will no longer be providing the service, and then provide them a certain period of time to install their own systems to replace the system that the township is currently offering to those industries. So that concludes our presentation. I'm not sure if there's any direction from administration or for council for additional information. I don't believe the intent was to ask you to make a decision tonight, but we would definitely like your feedback in order to prepare a plan on how to move the operation of this facility further into the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Marco, for your presentation. Would you mind exiting out of your presentation screen so I can see everybody on the screen?
Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. So basically, here's a prime example as to why every municipality should have an asset management plan in place. This question will be directed to Mr. McDonald. Lachlan, do we have any reserves on hand for this asset at this current time? And could you inform council what the operating costs on a yearly basis is?
Okay, just offhand for the operating costs, I know I had sent that information to Dave, so he might have it. And as for a reserve, I don't believe we set aside money, but I'll just check that out quickly while Dave answers this next.
Chief, you said you have that information?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So since 2016, our expenses for this site have been $52,000. In the same 5-year period, our income, which has not changed, it's been a constant income that we've had, I would say estimate probably for the last decade or more, has been $25,000, so $5,000 per year, combined for the two properties. That's a number that is carried forward from the past. And so that's the expenses and the income. So they really don't match the need of the facility to bring it into line with current standards. The expenses due to the age, just in 2016, we had to do a pump replacement, a rebuild, sorry, and that was $21,000. So our expenses are getting quite high on this facility, and that's the reason why we wanted to bring it forward to council and get some direction on if council would like to continue offering this service and to what level. On the note of some of the items that were brought forward, just to note, the pond vegetation has been cleared, and that was just completed last week. So that's one item that's been completed. And we are looking at some of the minor structural items on the building at this time. Before we invested a lot of money in the facility, we wanted to get some direction from council. So that's the reason bringing this report forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief, for that information. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you for your report, Mr. Vincelli. One point of clarification I was looking for is on the slide where you indicate the risk that if the insurance companies become involved, that they might require redundant fire water setup. Can you explain what's the risk to us? Are you saying that we could be required to do that because it sounds like we don't really have much of an agreement in place. So I want to better understand the risk, please.
Sorry, thank you very much for the question. From my understanding, if an insurance company is getting involved with the negotiation of a fire protection agreement, they are obviously providing the insurance coverage for those industries. So they may require additional redundancy in the fire water pumping station in order to ensure that there's fire protection provided in emergency situations. So if the insurance company, and of course they won't be requiring the township, they'll be requiring the industries to make sure that that's incorporated into the agreement. That's based on some of the industrial information that I had been able to pick up when we were doing the evaluation of this system.
Okay, so basically the risk is that we, like, for our eyes to be open to understand if we agree to do something, that it's clear on what exactly it is that we are providing, and not to get a surprise down the road that say, well, now you actually need double of what you've actually planned for.
That's correct, definitely. Just because I would assume that if the township is going ahead with some of the capital upgrades that are required at this facility, there will be a cost-sharing agreement put into place with those industries. And as part of that agreement, this may be brought up as a requirement from those industries once they're putting pen to paper for the provision of this service.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of council? Seeing none at this time, thank you very much for your report on this subject, and I'll hand it back over to the chief if you want to enter the next report.
Sure. Just to finalize this, I will come back to council with a staff report on the fire ponds with, if council wants to reach out to me at any point in the time in the next week or two, and I can put together something in a staff report to give a little bit of direction, and with some of these options provided. So, and we can decide how to move forward at that point.
So could we, your thoughts are you want this on the next council meeting?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So members of council, please forward any comments to the chief between now and the next council meeting, and I look forward to that report. Thank you. Moving on to the road maintenance plan.
Yeah, sorry, thank you, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Tonight we have EVB, Township of South Glengarry Roads Department has asked EVB to show council a road maintenance plan that has been put together by EVB in conjunction with the Roads Department. And presenting tonight will be Mr. Marco Vincelli.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc.
You're on mute.
Thank you again, Mr. LeBlanc, your worship, council and administration for this opportunity to come and speak to you about the road maintenance plan for the township. Now, EVB had been approached by the township to help develop a road maintenance plan to look at the capital expenditures for the township for the next 10 years. So we have taken a look at the existing roads need study and other supporting information in order to start evaluating what the recommendations were from those reports, so that we can come up with a planned road maintenance schedule that the township can then incorporate into their asset management plan, and then plan for the funding and the financing of the projected projects to come in the next 10 years. So the township has 3 classes of roads. The first class of roads are asphalt roads. There's approximately 154 kilometers of those roads within the township. Their life expectancy is anywhere from 20 years to 30 years, depending on the annual maintenance and the preventative maintenance used in order to increase and extend the life expectancy of those roads over the course of their usage. The second class of roads would be double surface treatment. So this is another hardened surface other than asphalt. So there's about 84 kilometers of these roads, and they have a typical life expectancy of 7 to 10 years. Now, there's typically no annual maintenance for this type of road structure, other than doing some spot repairs when required. And then the third class of roads are gravel roads, which encompass about 176 kilometers of township roads. And they don't have a life expectancy. There is a significant amount of annual maintenance required in order to maintain those roads so that they can be used by the public. And that includes the leveling or topping up of the gravel on a 3-year basis, the application of the grading, of the road surface to make sure that it remains travelable, and dust control in order to prevent dust from affecting the aesthetic characters around those properties. So the background information that was available to us, there was a roads need study completed in 2020 that evaluated the condition of all the township roads. There is a minimum maintenance standard for municipal highways, which is an Ontario regulation. And then there's discussions regarding the township's level of service for the asset management plan. So we're in the process of establishing what your current level of service is. And then in a 2-year window, you'll be looking at establishing what your desired level of service is to meet your asset management plan regulation requirements. So an overview of the road needs study. So it was an evaluation of the condition of all the roads within the township. And what it looked at was the road geometry, the drainage condition of all the roads, the maintenance condition, its structural adequacy, the surface condition, vertical alignments, overall condition ratings, and the priority rating, which would be the evaluation of how important that road is to maintain in good condition. So the report itself was completed in 2020 by Greer Galloway. So if we are to take the recommendations from the Greer Galloway report, we have looked at all 3 classes of roads. So for your asphalt road, we have 154 kilometers with a average service life of 20 years. So we would be looking at planning to do 7.7 kilometers of reconstruction of your asphalt roads every year. Based on the type of reconstruction the township has been using, we have come up with an average rehabilitation cost of $675,000 per kilometer, or an annual average cost for your asphalt roads alone of just under $5.2 million. So in addition to doing the asphalt reconstruction, there should be a shouldering program in place. Now, this typically hasn't been done within the township, and we'll be reviewing some photos of township roads which demonstrate the importance of shouldering and how it helps to maintain the surface of an asphalt road. So for the purpose of your planning, for your financial side of things, we're looking at shouldering the roads on a 3-year basis. So you'd be doing 43.6 kilometers of shouldering per year at an average annual cost, or sorry, average kilometer cost of $10,500 per kilometer. And that's based on going construction rates. There has been discussions with Mr. LeBlanc of using township staff to do the shouldering, which could potentially reduce the cost of this item. But until we have established all the equipment requirements and rental rates, we will maintain the cost that we've obtained from contractors to do this work. So there would be just under $500,000 in shouldering work that would have to be planned for on any given year. So for the surface treated roads, there's 84.2 kilometers of those roads. If they last an average of 7 years, we'd be looking at doing 12 kilometers of the surface treated roads every year at a cost of $48,000 per kilometer. We would have an annual cost for the reconstruction of your surface treated roads of just under $600,000 per year. For the gravel roads, we would be looking at re-graveling the roads every 3 years. So we would do about 78.5 kilometers of re-graveling every year at a cost of $8,000 per kilometer and an annual budgetary planning cost of just under $400,000 per year. The grading of all of your gravel roads is currently done by township staff. So there is no cost in addition to what your current annual budgets are. And then dust suppression is done on all gravel roads and some of the main gravel roads twice a year for a cost of approximately $134,000 per year. So to do the work as laid out in the road needs study, the township should be budgeting $6,751,000 per year to maintain the roads in accordance with the recommendations of the road needs study that was prepared. And currently the 2021 roads budget was $2.5 million. So we were taking a look at what the available or the flexibility would be in planning for the maintenance of these roads. So we took a look at the 3 different classes of roads and associated a different service life, so that if the township was proactive in crack sealing and maintaining their paved roads, they could potentially extend the service life of the roads from 20 years to 30 years. Or sorry, 20 years to 30 years. So we have provided you with a range of costs for all of the road classes, and a total flexible range of costs from the $6.7 million indicated on the previous slide, which would gradually improve the average condition of all the roads within the township. If you wanted to maintain a status quo and try to maintain the roads with the average condition that they're in right now, the township should be planning on spending $5.4 million. And if the township were to plan on spending less than that, there would be a gradual decline of the average surface condition of your roads. So there are a number of things we now need to consider looking at the level of service the township would like to provide to its residents. And there are typically 3 classes of roads, or 3 types of roads, sorry, I'll say, within the township. So we have the collector roads, which are roads that see a higher level of annual average daily traffic on them. Then you have your local roads in your hamlets and the local roads in the rural areas. So the township will need to work towards preparing a priority list on which roads should take priority over the others when establishing what work is done. So, or which roads should remain gravel or be surface treated or paved in the future. As the treatment on the roads increase from gravel to pavement, you'll see that the annual cost for maintaining the roads will also increase. So the more pavement you have, the higher your annual budgets will be in order to maintain your road infrastructure. So I'm going to ask Ian to, I don't know if I can, to walk through some of the pictures that have been taken.
Okay, good evening, Council, and thank you for allowing us to make this presentation. After Chris and I did a drive around throughout the township, I followed it up with a drive-through, just kind of looking for different assessments of the various roads and the various conditions that were in. Some were newly upgraded, some were existing from a number of years. So since we can't go on a real tour, I guess we'll call this our virtual road tour. And the first slide presentation is Frog Hollow Road. I believe that was upgraded to a double surface treatment in the last few years. And as you can see, it's in very good condition. It's a low volume road, and it's virtually a residential road, if you will, as there's very little heavy or major agricultural activity along this roadway. Skip ahead. The next road I looked at was Beaupre Road, which is kind of an extension of Frog Hollow Road heading eastward. Again, the surface treatment is in very good condition. It's a very low volume road, and there's no major agricultural activities along the roadway. And as we move forward, you'll see why I keep repeating about the agricultural equipment. This road, the next road is Concession 7 at the west end, east of County Road 34. Now this road is in fairly good condition. It is also a full load road It's egress or access to the quarry. So it gets a lot of heavy traffic and heavy traffic throughout the year. So I'm not sure if the background or the geotechnical conditions along this roadway, but it seems when it was initially asphalted and set up that it was designed to carry a much heavier or full load of traffic. Now, as a comparator, the next road is First Line Road, and this is from concession 7 looking towards the quarry entrance at the south end. It's a gravel road. Again, conditions were very good. It seems to be well maintained. I believe that twice a year you put dust suppressant on it. I'm not sure how often the grading has to take place on that road, but it certainly demonstrates that a good gravel road can handle a lot of traffic just as well as a fully asphalt road. The next photo is showing along Second Line Road. The asphalt surface requires repairs along the center line and certainly needs a new wearing surface. Now, according to your roads needs study, this is one that you're going to do a cold in place or potential cold in place treatment to next year, which I think is a good treatment for this roadway. I would only suggest that in areas where there's evidence of depressions or pop-ups from quite likely boulder materials right under the surface, that those be dug out and repaired well ahead of doing your cold in place. Again, there's another snapshot of Second Line Road, and you can see along the shoulder of the road, two things to point out. There's very little shoulder material there, and you can see where the roadway under the wheel traffic, the outside wheel traffic is starting to break away and causing damage to the road itself. Now, typically along the cracks that are on there, you would see crack sealing, and that should be done on an annual basis to protect roads. But in this case, if this road is up for reconstruction in the next year, then it's probably not worth with the crack sealing in this current year. The next road is concession 7. It's a surface treated road. It's a low volume road. There's very little traffic on it and just moderate agricultural activity on the roadway itself. So it also is holding up fairly well. The photo in front of you is Third Line Road. And I believe in the last week or so, it has been a candidate for cold in place, and I think that work has been completed, and it's just waiting for a new wearing surface. But again, you can see many of the cross breakages in the road, just from, it's just a time factor. I'm not sure when this road was done last. I'm expecting it was probably 25 to 30 years. You can see grass growing up in the pavement area, which again should have been a candidate for crack sealing. But again, doing the work that we're doing this year, it probably wasn't worthwhile trying to do any crack sealing in the area. And again, the shoulder of the road you can see is in very poor condition. I think it's eroded because of the nature of the hill that it's on, and the shouldering material has basically eroded away, which weakens the shoulder or the asphalt adjacent to the shoulder of the road. Okay, the next photo is on the Glen Road, just east of Boundary Road. And you can see, here's an example of a good asphalt road that's been well protected. You can see the crack sealing is done in this area. In this area, the shoulders seem to be fairly close to the elevation of the asphalt adjoining it. And so the road it's being well maintained in this area, as well as it's performing very well. Now, having said that, the next photo is on Glen Road. And again, you can see an area where the shoulder maintenance seems to be substandard. And you're getting a breaking away of the asphalt into the shoulder of the road, and that just keeps working its way out towards the center of the road. So again, getting back to a good shouldering program on a annual, semi-annual, or every 3 years would address that situation and protect that edge from breaking away. The next example is Cedar Grove Road. It's a surface treatment. And you can see where it's been spot repaired along the way, which would suggest to me that in the spring of the year, there's a very poor subbase in that area, and possibly a road that is not really ready to be surface treated or have a hard surface on it, because the substructure is just not strong enough to carry the traffic load that's on it. You have to remember that the double surface treatment, it's a veneer that basically gives you a smooth surface, but there's very little structural strength to it. So before we do any of the surface treatment roads, it's probably would be well advised to have a geotechnical evaluation to ensure that the road is ready to act as a hard surface road with discounting the value of the surface treatment. From a strength point of view, it has very, very little strength, the surface treatment itself. Again, this is a little further along Cedar Grove Road, and you can see areas where the surface treatment has totally failed and disappeared from the roadway. Again, I think it was just a poor subbase and lack of drainage along the sides of the road that led to this failure. This is just a blow up of that failure. You can see, again, the surface treatment is a very, very thin surface, and again, has very, very little wearing, or very little strength in it, but it is a good wearing surface for the right candidates. Again, and I picked on Cedar Grove Road because it was just recently done. So you do have areas where the surface treatment is in good condition after, I believe it was 1 year or possibly 2 years since it's been done, with very little visible defects in the base or drainage areas. And again, this is Cedar Grove Road at County Road 34. More than showing the surface treatment in this area, I just wanted to indicate where you are tying into the county roads or into a full asphalt roadway, it would be advisable to bring your asphalt pavement back inside of your side roads far enough so that you don't get the area of transitioning from the heavy traffic coming to a stop or a turn in that portion on the surface treatment. It'd be much better if you could bring the asphalt around the radius back 10 to 15 meters onto the side road so that you don't have that turning and stopping action on your surface treatment. Again, another snapshot of that. You can see how the surface treatment is breaking away, and mainly due to the turning radiuses of the traffic coming in onto Cedar Grove from County Road 34. The next road we have is Fallowfield Road, and Fallowfield Road has had surface treatment for a number of years. But one thing that is very evident along this road, because it's a road with very heavy agricultural traffic, you can see in the turning locations in and out of that laneway where there's a lot of damage done to the surface treatment. There have been repairs done to it, but it's really not a great candidate for the heavy agricultural traffic that's on this roadway. Again, Fallowfield Road, and in this slide you can see that there's a portion of it that's been completely covered with asphalt, and I assume that's just to fix a repair that was done with on the previous surface treatment that was there. You can also see that the asphalt is holding up much better. You got to imagine that that subbase had failed sometime in the past. Yet when they asphalted it, it did give added strength to that road and assisted quite a bit in the duration of the road. So I think one of the things we have to consider when we're doing these roadways is what is the traffic and the potential traffic load on this road. And sometimes surface treatment may not be the right answer for it. You may be better to leave it in a granular road or go repair the road and put it in full asphalt pavement. This is just a blow up of the same look that we were looking at on Fallowfield Road. And you can see the potholes or sub-base failures all along in that area. Again, I think it's just a poor sub-base. It was somewhat up on a hillier area of the road. And a lot of thought is that when you're on a hill, it's nice and dry. That doesn't happen to work very well in Glengarry County. The hills are usually the wet areas and sometimes the weaker areas on your roads and your sub-base.
All right, thank you, Ian. So again, to get back to the road needs study recommendations and for consideration from council is moving forward, we need to establish what the township's policy is going to be in order to consider the upgrading of roads. So based on the 2020 road needs study recommendations, it indicates that if the sub-base is adequate and there is a traffic count of more than 400 cars per day, then it would be a candidate for a surface treatment on that road. The study itself does not provide any indication of what roads should be upgraded to paved roads at this time. So the township now needs to take a look and determine where they would like to see some additional surface treatment on their gravel roads. So I just wanted to highlight some of the benefits of doing that. So the benefits of providing a surface treatment on your roads compared to maintaining them as gravel roads is that it does diminish the normal wear and tear on the road surface. So it does require less annual maintenance from your township staff. They don't have to go out and grade the roads. They don't have to apply dust suppressions on the roads. So there are some benefits to doing that. It also improves the driving conditions on these roads, especially in winter conditions. So the township now requires an evaluation tool of what they need to consider when they are going to improve the conditions of one of the roads from gravel to surface treatment or from surface treatment to paved. And one of those very important evaluation criteria is going to be the adequacy of the subbase. And there needs to be a plan in place to do some basic geotechnical investigation work on a gravel road prior to deciding whether or not that base is adequate for a surface treatment or for surface treatment to be converted up into paved conditions. So another item to consider is the drainage alongside of the roads. Ian had alluded to some of the areas on the roads that we had photographed had some poor drainage, and as a result, there may have been some heaving within the roads during the spring thaws and winter freeze cycles. So that is an important factor to consider when maintaining and upgrading your road infrastructure. Another item to consider is the heavy traffic that some of the township roads see. So a surface treatment road, as shown in the pictures, might not be the best fit for some of the heavier traffic on some of the rural roads within the township. And another thing to consider would be just the basic road geometry. As soon as you provide a hard surface for drivers to drive on, they tend to travel at higher speeds. So we need to consider, visible sight lines for that traffic who are using those roads to make sure that we are maintaining their safety as paramount to the township's interests. And a lot of this information on these evaluation criteria can be picked up by township staff when they're doing their patrols. So it's very important for them to be collecting this data and then making it available when there's consideration for a road to undergo an upgrade or any kind of maintenance. So in the past, the township had set some priority on making sure there's a hard surface in many of the hamlets within the township. So again, this is for consideration from this council on whether or not that is a priority to make sure that those hardened surfaces are provided within all the small hamlets, and what is the cost that the township wants to budget each year to ensure that that happens. So again, these surfaces can be either paved or double surface treated. So there's advantages and disadvantages to both. The life cycle cost analysis should be done to see which one would give the best benefit to the township. And then again, the township has to decide where their roads budget needs to be spent.
And just a bit further in the hamlets, it's not just a matter of the road surface that we're looking at. I think if we're deciding to do within an area, whichever of the hamlets, and many of them are on your roads need study to be upgraded, we have to take a look at the rest of the infrastructure that goes along in the hamlets, whether it be sanitary sewers, water mains, storm drains, roadside ditches, roadside culverts if it's in a ditched area. All of those should be, all that work should be done ahead of trying to fix up your traveling road surface. For instance, I think you had Glendale subdivision on your list of roads to be upgraded in the near future, but now recognizing that you're going to get a gas infrastructure in there, you would hold off on doing that, make sure that that infrastructure is in place, and then following that, make sure that the drainage is in good condition. You don't have sanitary sewers or water mains there, but at least that infrastructure is in place and you're not going down the road, fixing up the road surface, and then coming back in a few years to address other infrastructure deficiencies. So in all of the hamlet areas, I think we have to start taking a look at that first, the infrastructure other than the road. And if that's all in good condition, then prioritize which roads you'd like done and whether it be in asphalt or in a double surface treatment.
And one other consideration for council is that when we were reviewing the road structure, we did make reference to the current township standards. And we believe that there should be some investment into those standards by the township to make sure that when your infrastructure is being constructed, that it is there for the betterment of the community and for the township, and that the standards for the quality and the construction that are being used are fitting the situations that they are being applied to. So the current township standard for road design has a single standard for all roads. Now, if I make reference to the Cornwall standard, they have a different configuration and asphalt design for 4 different categories of roads. Now, I'm not suggesting that the township of South Glengarry has to go into that much detail in 4 different categories, but there are some main roads like Town Road and Ray Road, Purcell Road, South Service Road that are seeing a significantly more higher level of traffic than some of the other roads. So it should be considered to have a higher design standard for some of those surfaces, so that the money the township is investing in your infrastructure is there for the long haul, and that the roads will last longer than the anticipated design service life for a typical local road. So I realize that was a lot of information provided on your road networks and on the maintenance requirements for those road networks. We'd like to leave that with you to be digested, and again, come back to you for some direction on how the township's council would like to see their money invested in the road networks to make sure that they're there to support the communities and the growth that is occurring within the township.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your presentation. If you could exit the main screen, that is perfect. I would like to say a shout out to Mayor McLeod. Good to see you again. Is the view better looking in than looking out? Okay, I'd like to open the floor up to questions from the members of council. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you very much, Mr. Vincelli and McLeod, for your presentation. If it's okay with you, Deputy Mayor Warden, I have a bunch of questions, but if I could start with maybe two. The two questions that I'm most interested in is when you're coming up with the annualized cost and you're basing it on average rehabilitation costs. What I'd like to understand is, are those, like for lack of a better word, are those lived experience costs? Like those, is that, you know, what is it, $48,000 to do a kilometer of surface treat? Is that what it's really costing us? Or is that, you know, like looking back historically, or is that a sort of a hypothetical number?
No, those are fairly realistic costs based on the market values today. I mean, they fluctuate year to year, but in speaking with some of the contractors that do that type of work, that's the indication they gave us what the prices would be in this calendar year.
Okay, but so it's not necessarily our specific numbers of like what it's cost us on average.
Yeah, no, those would be average cost based on us per square meter or lineal meter of roadway to be done.
Okay.
We based them on 6.5 meter widths of roadways or traveled surface of the roadways. So that may vary from road to road slightly, but it's in that order of magnitude.
Okay, thank you. And so my second question is this is just so that I'm clear I'm understanding correctly, is that up until this point, what I had understood was that as long as you can get your tar and chip roads, your surface treated roads to last 7 years, that it was actually more economical to convert a gravel road to tar and chip or surface treated. And if I'm understanding your data correctly, in fact, really a surface treated road costs twice as much annually to maintain. So am I understanding that correctly?
We have used the values out of the road needs study that was prepared for the township. For surface treated roads, the value or the predicted service life for that class of road was indicated at 7. We have done a review of other municipalities and the numbers that they have used for the expected service life of a double treated surface. And we typically see closer to 10 years of service life before having to redo the surface treatment. So when we were looking at the variability in the costs or your budgetary costs on the one slide that showed the range, we did indicate one of the options was 7 to 10, and I believe 12 years. So we can start tracking what your historic costs are and frequency are for the surface treatment that's occurring within the township. But I would think that the 10 years is more typical to most of the municipalities in our area.
But still ends up being more expensive. Like the surface treatment ends up more expensive than gravel.
But the level of service is much higher. So it's a trade-off to the level of service that you want to provide. And provided that you have a low volume, light volume road and the sub base is in good condition, surface treatment probably makes very good sense. If you have high traffic or heavy loads and you don't have a great sub base, then you're better to leave it in granular. As you saw on Fallowfield Road, and not picking on Fallowfield Road, but it virtually fell apart the first year after it was surface treated. And I think it's partly due to a few things. One, it's got very heavy agricultural traffic on it. And, you know, we do have a lot of agricultural traffic on the rural roads in the area. So maybe if we're looking at those roads, surface treatment's not the right answer. You may want to jump right from gravel to an asphalt roadway if the subbase is correct.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Jaworski, Councillor Lang or Councillor McDonnell. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you. And thank you, Marco, and for your presentation, and Mr. McLeod as well. You guys sound like me when I'm trying to make my budget at the beginning of the year. You're spending $2.5 million, but you need $6 million. And I mean, there's always a wish list out there, and but I can't see us being able to go from 2.5 to 6. You know, we might be able to do something, but so we need to look at other options, I think, and I think that's fairly evident to everybody. So we need to either, like Marco said, stretch these from 7 years to 10 or 12. I know what you were saying about Fallowfield, and it is broke up pretty badly, but it's broke up pretty badly in places, and there's some places that aren't that bad. So, you know, maybe the option is, instead of trying to upgrade the base on the whole road, which would cost us a lot of money, maybe we tar and chip these roads and then upgrade the base on the parts that do fall apart. And although, you know, I don't have any numbers to back that up, this is just me talking, but we have to find a way to get from 2.5 to somewhere in between that's reasonable and doable. But I don't think we can say, well, this fall we're going to put our roads budget up to 6 point whatever. So I think we got a lot of looking at this study to do. There's lots of good information in here, and I think it's, I don't know if we have a little round table someday or something, and you know, specifically talk about this item, and maybe involve you guys. And I don't know what the answer is, but we definitely need to do the talking and figure out where we go. But I don't see us jumping to the 6 point whatever million at this point.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lang. I think Councillor McDonnell, did you have anything to add?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. No, not really at this point. I'll just at this point agree with Councillor Lang. I feel the same way. You kind of look at what we want to budget and what we almost need to. Maybe we've got to look and get a little creative with what we've got. So I'll agree to that. I wouldn't be opposed to a round table looking at this further.
Thank you. I can say, being on council for the last 6 years, our roads have improved. We've invested significant amounts of money. Going forward, it's obvious that what we're investing doesn't maybe fit the bill, but I think we're definitely better off than we were 6 years ago. If Mr. LeBlanc, if you and Mr. McDonald could work together to get some information back to council as soon as possible, where you feel from a staff perspective where we should sit, I think that would go a long way to helping council make a decision, and maybe have some statistical data in regards to our asset management plan, where we are and where we'll be if we add a certain amount of money per year. Echoing Councillor Lang's comment, we're not going to be spending $6.5 million on our roads. It's just not feasible. So in closing, thank you, gentlemen, for your. Councillor Jaworski, did you have a further question?
I did, unless you wanted to cut off discussion, sorry.
Well, I was just wondering, would you be able to pass the questions that you have along to Mr. LeBlanc and CC Mr. Vincelli and Mr. McLeod, that we could get those answered for you?
Sure. Well, I don't need the answer now. I'll just, my question would be that when we have further discussion, or maybe it's from staff, just to have a better understanding of within the hamlets, how do we understand what can be surface treated versus what needs to be fully paved? Because I kind of feel like we've always gone full paved, but maybe have misjudged what's already there.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. LeBlanc and Mr. McDonald, just need acknowledgement that you'll be reporting back to council in the near future as to where we go well before budget, so we can kind of get our heads around it. Maybe at the next meeting, the following meeting, the latest, if that's possible, please. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Gentlemen, thanks for your presentations. We appreciate it. And I think that's it for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Okay, moving on to, gotta go to my phone here. Staff reports, as a matter zoning bylaw amendment. Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this application was before council very recently on July 5th for a public meeting. And the purpose of the application was to rezone an area of land that became surplus following the disposition of a surplus dwelling consent application. And so before you, you see the staff report that recommends it to be approved. It does conform to the official plan, and it's a requirement of the provincial policy statement to ensure that any retained lands located in the prime agricultural designation be rezoned to prohibit residential construction. And in this case, because it could not meet the minimum lot area of our bylaw being 20 hectares, we're also looking at reducing that minimum lot area. So please let me know if you have any questions regarding this report.
Seems pretty straightforward. Seeing no questions, moved by Sam McDonnell, moved by seconded by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 100-2021 be received, and that bylaw 61-2021 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 38-09, the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Township of South Glengarry, to rezone the property legally described as east half of lot 20, concession 3, south side Raisin River, in the geographic township of Charlottenburg, now in the Township of South Glengarry, County of Glengarry, from agricultural and natural hazard to agricultural, exception 29, and natural hazard, to reduce the minimum lot area from 20 hectares to 4.47 hectares, and to prohibit residential construction. You read a first, second, and third time passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 19th day of July 2021. The Council of the Township of South Glengarry confirms that no public comments were received on this application. Therefore, there is no effect on the decision. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to 7B, Natter Poor temporary use zoning bylaw, Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll provide a little bit more detail to this staff report simply because we don't see temporary use zoning bylaw amendments on a regular basis, and especially when we're looking at the request for a shipping container. So first of all, shipping containers are only permitted in the industrial or agricultural zone. However, we do have requests from time to time where people feel that a shipping container could serve their needs for a temporary purpose while they're looking at developing the property. So this property is located south of the South Service Road, or along the South Service Road, as well as off of a private road known as 78th Avenue. It's approximately 8.8 acres in size. It's located in the former Township of Lancaster and east of the village of Lancaster. And the purpose of this request was the applicant has recently purchased this vacant parcel of property. It is their intent to develop the parcel of property. In the meantime, with their obligations to maintain the parcel, they're looking for approval to have a shipping container placed on the property for a period of up to 3 years that will gain them time to determine how they're going to develop the property. In this particular case, we spent some time reviewing the proposed request, as well as the proposed location for the container storage, or shipping container, I should say. And we also circulated the Raisin Region Conservation Authority, given the proximity to the St. Lawrence River, as well as the canal. And you'll see in the staff report that the Conservation Authority has no concerns or do not object to the proposed request. And administration is also recommending this application be approved. If council chooses to approve this evening, it means that a shipping container can be placed on site, and it would be used for storage purposes for basically lawn maintenance equipment. And the approval would expire on July 19th, 2024, as per the Planning Act. Now, if the individual doesn't develop in this timeframe, the 3-year timeframe, then the applicant or the property owner can come forward and ask for a request. But based on our discussions, based on what you learned in the public meeting on July 5th, the property owner does intend to develop a single family dwelling in this timeframe. So thank you for the opportunity to present this, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Haley, for your presentation. Any questions of members of council? Seeing none, I like it that we can be flexible and work with our local residents whenever they have these situations come up. Seeing there was no public comments, this is good. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Martin Lane. Be it resolved that staff report 101-2021 be received, and that bylaw 62-2021 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 38-09, the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Township of South Glengarry, to permit the placement of a shipment container as a temporary use on the property legally described as part of lot 22, concession 1, South Service Road, in the geographic township of Lancaster, now in the Township of South Glengarry, County of Glengarry, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed, and open council this 19th day of July 2021. And furthermore, that this temporary use bylaw will expire on July 19th, 2024. The Council of the Township of South Glengarry confirms that no public comments were received on this application, and therefore there was no effect on the decision. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And we're moving on to 7C, Site Plan Control Agreement, William Legg and Elizabeth McIntosh Legg. Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So this parcel of property is located at 6249 165th Avenue. It's approximately 0.63 acres in size, and it currently contains a cottage, and the property owner wishes to remove the cottage and construct a single detached dwelling. This property has gone through a minor variance process, and the purpose of the minor variance process was to reduce the front yard setback off of the private road. They're able to construct within the existing established building line between the existing structure and the St. Lawrence River. So anytime we have development that's located along the waterfront, south of County Road 2 or the South Service Road, we do require them to go through site plan control. In this case, the site plan was prepared by Grant Muriel Construction, as well as up-to-date survey was completed by Ron Jason Surveying. We circulated the Conservation Authority to obtain their comments to determine if there was any concerns if the development was to move forward, and they're supportive of the proposed site plan. And our building official and other staff internally have reviewed and have no concerns. Therefore, they accepted the site plan. So now the agreement is before council this evening, which would allow us to move forward with the development if the agreement is approved, issue a building permit, and then the agreement would be registered on title. So please let me know if you have any questions.
Are there any questions of council? Seeing none, moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 102-2021 be received, and that bylaw 63-2021 being a bylaw to approve a site plan control agreement for the property legally described as lot 28 and 29 registered complied plan 134 in the geographic township of Lancaster, now in the township of South Glengarry, County of Glengarry, also known as 6249 165th Avenue. You read a first, second, and third time passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 19th day of July 2021. And furthermore, that the deputy mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the site plan control agreement. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much. All right.
One more.
Yes, sorry, my apologies. I thought you were done. Ms. Haley, but you have one more. Moving on to 7E, wastewater, water and wastewater allocations. Ms. Haley.
Actually, Mr. Deputy Mayor, we have the Gillette site plan control agreement right before.
You are correct. My apologies.
Allocation, no problem.
Thank you. Sorry, Dylan.
So this property, the Gillette site plan control agreement, this property is located at 20278 County Road 2, which is west of the village of Lancaster or South Lancaster. And it currently is developed containing a boathouse with a dwelling unit on the second floor. However, the developer is proposing to construct a 2-story single detached dwelling that will be a little over 615 or 6,000 square feet in size. As you know, parcels of property that are located on the south side of County Road 2 or the South Service Road are subject to site plan control. In the site plan control bylaw, it indicates if the property is less than 1 acre, it's required, but if it's over 1 acre, it's not required unless it's deemed to be determined to be required by administration. In reviewing the proposed development, both with the United Counties, as well as our chief building official, and given the style of home that they were wanting to build in terms of it being a walkout dwelling with a proposed infinity pool and some floodplain along the St. Lawrence River, it was determined by staff that it is best if we did a site plan control agreement on this parcel of property to ensure that we are capturing everything that's required to make sure there's no negative impact to the abutting property owners given the grade changes. And so that's why you have that this agreement before you this evening. So this application was sent to both the United Counties of SD&G and the Raisin Region Conservation Authority. The Conservation Authority has commented and requested that a regulation permit be issued by their office prior to the township issuing a building permit. And the United Counties requires a new entrance permit. And that's in motion, but they also require that the installation of the entrance is to conform to their permit conditions. And I know the developers or the applicants will be working closely with the county to ensure this. So this is a standard site plan control agreement for a new waterfront development, and I don't have anything further to highlight at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Haley, for your report. I have a quick question in regards to the permit from the counties. They will not have any issues as this lot was just created a couple years ago, correct? So the county cannot refuse the entrance permit?
That is correct, Mr. Deputy Mayor. They wouldn't refuse it because, as you indicated, the property wasn't created a few years ago. There was a lot addition done a few years ago on this property. So, but that's still, they look at the entrances, they look at the existing entrances, what potential development can occur. And as you know, there's an existing entrance there because there's already the boathouse and dwelling. But the county doesn't always recognize existing entrances. They do require the process to be re-reviewed to ensure that the entrance is in a safe location and meets the requirements of today's United County standards.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of council? Seeing none, moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 104-2021 be received, and that bylaw 64-2021 being a bylaw to approve a site plan control agreement for the property legally described as part of Lot K, Concession 1 Front, in the geographic township of Charlottenburg, now in the township of South Glengarry, County of Glengarry, also known as 20278 County Road 2, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 19th day of July, 2021, and furthermore, that the deputy mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the site plan control agreement. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Ms. Haley. Okay, now Dylan's up and Ms. Haley. My apologies.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor Warden, as well as Council. This evening, I'm bringing forward the water and wastewater allocation update for 2021. So in early 2021, going back to February to be exact, we had the allocations for the water and wastewater. We had a negative number of -7 going into 2021, but we expected 42 lots or services to be brought back when the subdivision agreement for Purcell was terminated on July 1st, 2021. So tonight, I'm pretty much going to review the allocations that we do have. You will see a map included with your agenda tonight, including both allocations and infills for expected in the next few years that we've already allocated to building. So I'm trying to just stay on topic here. So for allocation wise, our numbers aren't great. We definitely are going to be in the negative, even with our 42 lots coming back from the Purcell subdivision. And this is coming back from a 5-year average for our wastewater flow, as well as a 5-year max for our water flow. So we, even with all our infill that we currently have allocated, as well as allocation for phase 5 in St. Laurent, we're looking at about 60 lots in total that we have already allocated for future builds. So with this report tonight, we are still going to be in the negative for 2021. And I do foresee this to fluctuate over the next few years. So we will not be able to allocate any more houses or any more services to homes for the year 2021. But with this report, I would also like to bring forward that we did have a request for another 30 lots for phase St. Laurent, or for St. Laurent, as well as a few other lots that the township owns as well. So just to touch base, we will be looking at finishing the EA for Glen Walter to see what our future plans are. I do foresee that being in the near future. I'm hoping I'm hitting everything this evening. But with the Bray Street upgrade, I will also be bringing another staff report to council in the near future, just as it's nearing completion at the moment, as well as the services that were put in for Kilkenny, Lawrence Street, as well as Glen Walter Park Road. I do believe council may have some questions for me this evening for the allocations.
Thank you very much, Dylan, for your report. Dylan, I have a question. I remember a couple of years ago, we were doing some improvements to the water, groundwater getting into our system and causing, capacity issues. Have we made any headway on that in the last year or two? Because the water being sent out and the water coming back was more. So we're definitely getting more. I mean, there's obviously there's an allotment for the waste, but have we made any headway on the groundwater?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Warden, we have made headway. So in 2020, we did see a decrease in the wastewater flows. The main issue with when we do an allocation report is we're always looking at a 5-year average or the max in a 5-year. So when we take our average from the previous years, it does make our numbers worse. So our number is worse compared to last year when we do the allocation status. We are still making headway for that issue, but every year the weather fluctuates. Some years we're extremely hot in the summer months, and that causes our water, our daily water cycle to go up. So we send out a lot more water during the hot, dry spells, right, when people are watering their lawns. So we see an increase one year in that, but on a wet year, then we see the opposite, where we see a lot more wastewater flow coming in. So, and that's why I say the numbers will always fluctuate. We're always going to, like at the moment where we are, we're always going to be just teeter-tottering around our capacity until we finish this EA and move forward with a good game plan and solution, hopefully in the near future.
Thank you. Dylan, at one point during my tenure, it was discussed about sump pumps being pumped into the system. Have we gone after residents who illegally are pumping sub pump of water into the system? Is that something that you've introduced, and is there, I mean, we're at the end of our capacity, so we have to be as proactive as possible and eliminate every single leader that we can that should not be going into the system. Is that an area where you see some potential gains in regards to capacity?
There is definitely gains in that capacity. I know many municipalities have the same issue as us, some pumps being the main cause. Definitely gains can be improved there, but in my time with the township, I have yet to do anything on that. No, I have not worked with that subject exactly yet.
Okay, I've said enough and asked enough of you for now. I'll pass it over to the other members of council. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you through you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Seke, for your report. Two things I want to be clear. So when we say we've allocated, that's basically we've made a promise. Is that correct? That you are going to get water, this specific lot. And because this is putting us into negative territory, are we allowed to do that? Are we allowed to go into negative territory? Is there something with our certificate that would prevent us?
As per the allocations that we've already introduced, so for like Phase St. Laurent, the service is already in, and for other lots that have been sold not too far in the past since my time with the township, these are some of these services are already also been paid for. But I guess to answer your question more or less, like it's always going to fluctuate. Last year we would be perfectly fine for our allocation. But if we get an extremely wet year again, it may go back in the negative, or if we have a great year this year, we might be positive by the end of the year. It's a weather dependent issue. So I don't believe we'll be in trouble for allocating those. We're trying to stay on track for what we're allowed.
Okay, so we do have some flexibility. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jaworski. Councillor Lang, Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you, and thank you, Mr. Senge, for the report. What's going to happen? I'm just wondering what the ramifications are. We're not going to allow any more this year, and I guess we can't. Are we going to have people that are applying for building permits and not able to build? Or are we going to have people having to put in septic systems in areas that we have water and sewer serviced areas? Or are we just going to stop any further development in those areas? I'm just wondering what the ramifications are, and so we have a better idea.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, the ramifications on this matter. So realistically, we're just not allowing any new development to occur. We, through this -19 this evening, that's including every single property that we have allocated to. So anyone in that area or within the area of Glen Walter where the water and sewer, we pretty much included everyone in that map. Any houses that aren't currently connected, there's one or two that we have also included in the future to be connected. It shouldn't stop any building development as we're not increasing the development area for the water and wastewater.
I'll ask a specific question. Committee of Adjustment, we talked about a property at the end of Elm Street tonight. If that property owner comes in and asks for a building permit, are they going to get water and sewer?
Elm Street.
I'll speak to that, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So the application that was before you this evening is not in a serviced area. It's in the unserviced area, so it has to be developed by a septic system.
Okay.
Yes. But I'd like to add something to that just so council understands what administration will be relaying to the public when we do receive requests, because I have conversations, on a daily or weekly basis with individuals interested in developing. So this means then as people come forward with consent applications for existing lot of records within the serviced area that are large enough to be divided into two, or if they propose either two lots or additional connections, it means that we either can't support the application, or if we do support applications, we have to have them sign acknowledgements that they can only move forward once water and wastewater services are available. Ideally, you wouldn't approve a consent application in these situations so that you're not setting that, you're not establishing the principle of development. So it may mean that we're going to have to say no. In the urban settlement area within the official plan, it says that development has to occur by municipal water and wastewater. There are some exceptions for rounding out. So for that reason, for example, I wouldn't support a severance application for a larger lot. In the situation that we identified in the report for Place Saint-Laurent Phase 6, we're not going to be able to allocate them anything until council comes up with a solution, or there's a solution presented in that municipal Class EA. So as long as you understand that we're going to be having difficult conversations with members of the public that might be frustrated that they're not able to move forward with the developments or the plans that they have until we have a solution, that's the position we're faced with today. And as much as Mr. Sege has described that it's fluid, it's going to depend on that average flow, we're -19, we're not -2. We're at the point where we have to be very concerned with what we allow for in the future. And that's what we really wanted to highlight this evening.
Yeah, Councillor McTonnell. You're on mute.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I guess thanks for the presentation, Mr. Seguin. I guess I had a question in regards, I guess, pick up on something you said to Councillor Jaworski. You said this year, because it's a wet year, we're in a negative position. Does that mean, say we were in a dry year next year and we miraculously came up, 21 units, would you be open to giving those 2 units out, or is that just as it is?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I do believe if we had a +2 right now, I do believe I'd still be on the same ground of not allowing the hookups, because we are at that point of, like I said to Jaworski, we're on that tipping point of being capacity, over capacity or under capacity. We're right there. So.
Nope, perfect. That's that answers my question. I guess I'm kind of pleased with that answer to an extent.
Hey, thank you very much, Dylan, for your presentation. Is there any way that you could come back to council with ways to reduce what's getting back to the plant, i.e. Through sump pumps? I remember when we were at a water, we all did our training in Morrisburg. There's legislation that we could potentially enact where we get really strict with any residents who are pumping sub pump water into the system. So would you be able to report back to council on ways that we can, and it's not necessarily to permit more development, just so that we can stay within, we don't need the ministry on our backs for being over our numbers. Councillor McTonnell.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Also, I just had a question I forgot. I do remember hearing about Mr. Seguin's department doing work on, was it manhole covers, putting seals in or gaskets, something along those lines. If there's something else we could look at that way as well, whether it's maybe spending a few dollars to try and seal up any cracks or any holes or whatever it takes.
Yeah, good point.
So yes, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I can definitely bring you forward, like with the sump pumps. It would definitely be a little bit more hands-on of an operation, visiting homes, or even we could start with the, just a letter to the public, reminding them not to use the sump pumps, as simple as that, with their next water bill. As per the manholes, we did do CCTV work. I do believe it was 2018, 2019, and in 2019 we did do some. It's called like crack sealing, where they pump in a liquid that turns to more of a concrete at the end into the inner lines of the manholes. Do I recommend that every year? No, but it's something we look at to do again in the future. Hopefully, instead of doing a big cost like we did last time, breaking it down to one subdivision at a time, and then staying on top of it that way.
Well, I'm sure I speak for all members of council. We look forward to your report for ways to mitigate more water getting into the system. Thank you very much. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 105-2021 be received and filed, and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry acknowledges that no further water and wastewater allocations can be granted in 2021 in the Glen Walter service area in South Glengarry. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next report, 7F, public art display. Ms. Baggs.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Good evening, everyone. If council remembers last council meeting, there was a draft proposal for public art display policy. We took some feedback back, and now the draft policy is hopefully finalized, and it includes the portion where there'll be a public art team to evaluate the art that comes in, and hopefully we'll be able to do a kind of like a gallery display. So we'll be able to pick art that kind of goes together well and fits with the location within the building. And the application process will be very streamlined. It'll be all done on our website. Everything can be uploaded that way and very easy to track. So if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Baggs. Any questions of members of council? Seeing none, moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 106-2021 be received, and that bylaw 65-2021 being a bylaw to adopt a public art display policy for the Township of South Glengarry be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 19th day of July 2021. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Ms. Baggs, for your work on this file. I am looking forward to seeing some nice artwork in and around the municipality. Okay, moving on to 7B, other business, waste management, service delivery, feedback. Mr. LeBlanc.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The current contract for the household garbage and recycling waste collection, haulage, and disposal is due to expire on November 30th of this year. Administration will be preparing and issuing an RFP to award the next contract for these services in the near future. In order to receive and review bids in a timely manner and prior to expiration of the contract, there are several items relating to these services that council may wish to provide input on for consideration with the next contract. Examples, set bag limits, phased in bag limits, pay-as-you-throw program, weekly or bi-weekly recycling collection, and any other changes in service delivery. Excuse me. South Glengarry is the only municipality in SD&G without a bag limit. Over the 226 municipalities that report to Waste Diversion Ontario, 68% either have a bag limit or a pay-as-you-throw policy, or a combination of both. Waste Diversion Ontario collects these statistics through their annual data call. So the purpose of this information report tonight is to seek council's feedback regarding our current service delivery and potential changes to include in the RFP. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much for your report, Mr. LeBlanc. I think this is a topic of it's a hot topic, and I think that council at some point needs to have a discussion before this RFP goes forward. I'm wondering if council wants to have discuss it right now, think about it, and have some sort of a formal discussion at our next council meeting. Maybe staff can bring forward the environmental report that was done many years ago. I know this sounds like a broken record, but I think before this RFP is issued, I think council needs to give staff clear direction where we want to go. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thanks, Mr. LeBlanc, for bringing this ahead of the RFP date. I appreciate seeing this now. That way we don't have these discussions right when we're trying to issue an RFP. I'd agree with Deputy Mayor Warden. I think we should have the conversation. I don't necessarily think it should be tonight. I'd like to see maybe some figures and numbers on what anticipated savings might be were we to go to say a bag limit. I know I have no desire to put a bag limit in, but I think there is some desire around the table for it. I know having a property in Quebec as well, the recycling is very well done here, so it is very easy to recycle. It is on a weekly basis. What would it cost? There's always a lot of people asking for weekly recycling. Maybe that would be an option to look at and see if there is maybe some kind of incentive for us to go to a larger bin as well. All I see when I see recycling is it flying through the ditches with our Ontario little blue boxes. They don't contain it at all. Just some things. Maybe I don't know if you need this information by Wednesday or something this coming week or what you'd like, but if you, I'd be open to having a discussion at a further meeting.
Thank you. And also Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor Warden. I'm very much on the same page, I think, as Councillor McDonnell in terms of, I think we need more information to be able to give better direction. I mean, certainly conceptually, I think recycling weekly is much better. I think that's a great idea. I think we're getting lots of questions about that. But we're paying like $500,000 now for recycling. So if we go to weekly, does that mean we're going to be doing $1 million? You know, like I think we need to, before we have grandiose ideas, I think we need to have a little bit clearer picture on what those might mean. I don't know if we can. Maybe if it's just ranges, you know, that 25% sort of design estimate kind of level. I don't know. Same thing on the waste. You know, we're spending $1 million annually on waste collection and running our landfills, and that doesn't include closing those landfill sites up or expanding them, which we will have to do if we keep putting the same amount of waste in them. So I think we really need to have a discussion on what would bag limits look like? What additional costs would be incurred in having bag limits? What kind of systems are there for bag limits? Does everybody get coupons at the beginning of the year and they use them throughout? Or, you know, like what are the different systems? And do those different systems, what cost do they represent? And what, if in an RFP, you know, what kind of figures would they add substantially to our, you know, what we'd consider reasonable cost or not? Certainly I'm in favor of reducing them, but again, it has to be reasonable. So I would like some more information like on those veins, please.
Very valid points. I also want to make a point that this should also be circulated to the Environmental Committee. I believe they may have some recommendations that may be fruitful to the discussion. I don't know if that's something that could be done. Councillor Jaworski, your thoughts on that as the chair of that committee?
I'm sure that they would be. I'm sure they would welcome the opportunity to comment on it. I think we would just need some idea on when the council or staff would want those comments back by, because currently our next meeting is scheduled for September 21st. We took a bit of a break over the summer, but I think this is something they'd be happy to come back for.
Okay. Councillor Lang, did you have any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you. Yeah, I think you guys have touched on most of it. I think we need to look at this. Obviously, money's the deciding factor in a lot of things, and if we're going to try to keep our tax bills similar to where they are now, we need to be thinking along these lines, and we need to be saving our landfills, because the cost of expanding or closing them or doing something else is going to be very expensive. So we have to have these discussions. I know a lot of residents aren't thrilled about bag limits, although when I drive around, I very seldom see more than 2 bags out anyway. except for farms and so forth. And traditionally, in a lot of townships, farms are exempt from the bag limit anyway. So maybe it wouldn't hardly affect anybody. But I'd like to know if there's any chance it's going to save us some money. If it's not going to save us anything, you know, then we'll have to see if there's another way to find a way to save money, you know. So, yeah, a little more information, and maybe we're setting ourselves up for a day to sit down and talk about 4 or 5 different items. You know, we've already said we'd like to have a little roundtable on the roads. Maybe this is something else that we could take an hour or two on some day and debate this back and forth to come up with a plan. It's hard to do on a council night. You know, we're already 9 o'clock. We know we've got quite a bit ahead of us. So you hate to take up an hour or so discussing one item, and I think that's a limiting factor sometimes.
Yeah, thank you very much for those comments. I concur. One of the, I lost my train of thought. Having a moment here. Okay, so thank you very much for your report, Mr. LeBlanc. I think council will be in touch. I think we definitely need more information. Waste diversion Ontario is another thing too, where it's going to be the supplier's responsibility. So there's just so many unknowns at this time. It's almost impossible to make a properly guided decision. There doesn't seem to be enough stuff trickling out of what waste diversion is going to be. Councillor Jaworski, did you have something to add to that?
I did, because of what you're saying right now, and because of the work, you know, that the counties is still working on in terms of a regional approach. I just want to be clear, like what we're looking for in terms of an RFP. Would this be again like an annual RFP that we're looking to do, or would we be looking for a different time frame? Because I think with what Deputy Mayor Warden is mentioning now, we probably need to be focusing on a shorter time horizon, considering what might change in the future.
Did you want to take that, Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, maybe a possibility of doing it just once a year. It'd be a lot of work until we get to 2025. Once the waste is will settle down and we'll know a little more by then. Right now, it's very unclear.
Okay, thank you. CAO Mills.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. What a few local municipalities have done is gone multi-year, but with an out clause should things change. So that may be the route to go. It's a considerable amount of work to continue to do it yearly. You know, we get into we've got a lot of projects on the go, and it creeps up on us, and then you have to continually put it out an RFP. It's a lot of work with I'm not sure what you get in the end. Based on the discussion tonight, there's a few things to think about though. The average life of the landfills in Ontario is 10 years, you know, in general. So it's not that much time, or not that much different. So that's one thing. The other is the Blue Box program for 2025. And I mean, I don't know that I'm in favor or not in favor, but to explore recycling once a week rather than bi-weekly is, I think, one of the things whether we put that in an RFP and see what comes back in terms of price, we can tier it and ask for contractors to give us a price on one, a price on the other, and then council has some choices to make. They have something in front of them that's not just one thing.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for that. We've got some work to do on this file, and there's no easy decision in front of us. Okay, so thank you very much for that report, Mr. LeBlanc, and we will continue to work on that file. For information purposes only, moving on to 7D C, infrastructure services. I believe that was Councillor Jaworski that pulled that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, through you. Through you, Deputy Mayor Warden, I just wanted to make a quick comment, and it's possible that I missed this in the past on the infrastructure services report, but I just wanted to thank Mr. LeBlanc for listing out the roads where the granular surfacing was complete. At some point in the past, I know it was just a one-liner about work was done. I really appreciate seeing the list of roads. So if that's not too much of a burden, I hope that's the kind of information that can be included, that sort of detailed highlight of what's been done. So thank you.
Yep, thank you very much. We used to get a map yearly with each road highlighted what was going to be gravelled. So thank you for that. And the other one you had, Miss Jaworski, it was 7D F. Wasn't able to write it down. I do apologize.
I'm pretty sure that was Councillor Lang who technically pulled that one.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, it was Councillor Lang, and it's item 7DG.
My apologies. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you. Yes, and not to belabor it, and we've kind of mentioned it before, but just keeping an eye on what the building department's up to, and things are booming. Some things are down, institutional and commercial, and even ag is kind of running in the thing, but new dwellings way up, and what was the other one that was way up? Sewage systems. But the big number at the bottom is what really caught my eye, is that we've been averaging around likely $8 million worth of construction value up to this point in the year for the last 3 years, and this year we're at 22.2 million. And I think that's great for our township. I'm glad to see it. Hopefully it's going to provide some extra tax dollars, so help us with some of these other projects that are gaining ground fast as far as the cost of construction for roads and so forth. But I just wanted to thank the building department for the report, and glad to see that business is booming.
Perfect. All righty, thank you for that. Is there any other questions on the reports? Seeing none, moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry accepts the items presented on the agenda as committee reports and for information only. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, and we're moving into closed session at this time. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry convene to close session at 9:07 p.m. to discuss the following items under section 239(2) of the Municipal Act. 2, a meeting of part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality, information report / lease agreement, and E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, the OP update, and K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to agreement negotiations. And the other one it was added is matters about an identifiable individual. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. I will hand the floor over to Councillor Jaworski. Would we be able to do the report that I'm disclosing a pecuniary interest at the start of our in-camera? Because I believe we have EVB standing by. So I will log off and have the clerk text me once you're done. And thank you very much.